To the weekend review. We're just going to get started in just a moment. How you doing, Eli? Good to see you. I can
Doing
see you in the
great, yeah.
video feed there.
Yeah, I can't see you yet, but soon.
Yes, we are live streaming this. So if you want to even tune into YouTube, you just go to Music Industry City or Music Industry City on Facebook. We're live streaming the video there. And or some people just might be like, no, Peter, I'd rather just listen to you than look at you. You have a face for radio. No, me. I'm talking about me. Eli's like, me. All right, the little behind the scenes action going on here. Let's bring up Angela. And we're going to be covering a whole bunch of different articles. And Eli, so what are you looking forward to this weekend?
I'm looking forward to getting outside and spending some time with my dog. It's the little things.
Right on. Fantastic.
How about you, Peter? What are you looking forward to this weekend? It's going to be a great weekend.
I'm looking forward to just getting outside. Just go for a run, do some bike rides. I got to get my training back in. All right, now we're going into the countdown. How you doing? Welcome to the Music News Power Hour here on the Music Industry City Broadcast Network. And today we're going to talk about some TikTok creator tools for artists. Live Nations booked twice as many shows for 2022. Waka Flocka Flame, NFT. Say that 5 times really fast. And Chicago's holding some vaccine concerts. And we have the Cox versus BMG takedown notices, and it's all because of a bad email. Plus your daily Spotify update, and it's the weekend update. We have a lot to discuss, but first, let's check in with Eli. How you doing, Eli?
I'm doing great, Peter. How are you doing today? It's good to see you. I like your hat.
Oh, thank you. I like your head. We're going to start coordinating outfits here in the video stream, wearing maybe fedora Thursdays or something.
Yeah, we'll have Scarf Tuesday or something. We'll figure it out. Peter and I will talk amongst ourselves. It looks like we were both thinking hats today, but let's go ahead and jump in. We have a lot to cover today. Let's get started with On This Day in History. On this day, 1992, we remember the death of Nigel Preston, drummer with The Cult, who died in London, England, age 32. Also in memory, today in 1998, Eddie Rabbitt, U.S. singer-songwriter, died of lung cancer, aged 56. Moving on, birthdays today. Born on this day, 1946, Bill Kreutzmann, drummer with the Grateful Dead. Born this day, 1946, American singer and actress Thelma Houston. Born also this day, May 7th, 1951, American brass player Mick Gillette, famous for being a member of Tower of Power. Gotta love it. Born this day, 1969, Swedish musician Eagle Eye Cherry. Born on this day also, 1986, Matt Helders, drummer with English rock band Arctic Monkeys. Happy birthday. On this day in history, 1991, Wilson Pickett was arrested after running into an 86-year-old man and yelling death threats whilst driving his car over the mayor's front lawn in Englewood, New Jersey. Pickett was charged with driving with open bottles of alcohol in his car. I'm sure that's a surprise to all of us that alcohol was involved in that stunt. On this day, 2003, a Los Angeles federal jury recommended a $1.5 million award for a British record company that sued rapper-producer Dr. Dre for song plagiarism. London-based Minder Music Limited sued Dre in 2000, claiming his 1999 song Let's Get High used the bass line of the Fatback's 1980 song Backstroking, which was featured on Dre's successful 2001 album, which sold 9 million copies worldwide. And on this day, 2003, a U.S. surgeon sued 50 Cent over an unpaid medical bill. The doctor claimed 50 Cent and his friend turned up at a hospital with multiple gunshot wounds in 2000, but said the rapper never paid the $20,000 he owed for treatment, despite being asked for payment several times. Crazy day in history. That's it for On This Day in History. Back over to you, Peter.
Did they say he like ran over he onto the mayor's lawn, Wilson
Over an
Pickett?
86-year-old while he was driving on the mayor's lawn. So it sounds like the two were not necessarily related, but they just happened to coincide. It was a crazy incident, it sounds like. But like I said, it's a shock to all of us that alcohol was involved.
Exactly. Yeah. All right. So I see a lot of familiar faces. So you know the routine. But for those that might be new here and just tuning in for the first time, what we do is we scour the World Wide Web for music business news that we think should be open for discussion, and we're going to start that just in a moment. But what we do for like the first 15, 20 minutes is we do some news reads directly from the headlines, and you can follow along at musicindustrycity.com, where you can click on the Clubhouse infographic, and that'll take you to the show notes. And we have all the articles and the headlines that we cover throughout the week. And we had 56 of them this week, Eli. We covered 56 articles.
That's a lot of news.
That's,
And they say no news is good news, but
yeah.
I think that the news we've been seeing is good news. So I'd love to hear some more of it. And we have a lot to discuss today.
Exactly. And what it's so since it is the week in review, you're more than welcome to raise your hand. And if you want to jump on the stage, if you want to comment, have a reaction to one of the articles that we're talking about. And then we also can table it. And on the back half, we have the industry roundtable, where anything goes. If there's something we missed, or if there's something that you wanted to bring back to the table throughout the week, feel free to join in. And with that being said, let's get to it. All right, and this one comes from Variety magazine, or the Variety website, as a matter of fact. And this starts off: Live Nation weathers rough quarter as concert business slowly rumbles back to life. The article gets updated, and that's where we're going to start off as well. Tours and festivals for later this year being announced every day, and Live Nation's stock recently reached an all-time high based on the concert industry's anticipated return to health. The company's first quarter earnings report showed that the concert industry is just beginning to revive. It had a rough quarter, as it had predicted on its last earnings call report, and as would be expected. So the company's adjusted operating income loss for the quarter was $152 million, which consisted of $323 million in operational fixed costs and $171 million of contribution margin, which included $149 million from operations. It ended the first quarter with $1.1 billion in free cash, compared to $643 million at the end of 2020, an increase of $462 million. We're not going to go through every single detail and number here. The article goes and breaks down a little bit more, but they were talking about there's other articles that tie in, and we've covered them. We're talking about some of the how you see these articles talking about some of the executives have done stock cash outs. It's perfectly fine. It's just some of the optics might not look good for people at that moment, but here's what they're talking about. That this is saying the timing not only signifies confidence that the company and industry are coming out of lockdown, it removes her $950,000 salary because Kathy Willard, the CFO, will be retiring. So these are some of the things that all align with this article. So it's just more about paying attention to what's going on. It goes on saying that the global refund for Live Nation concerts that are rescheduled and in or have gone through refund windows remains at 17%. In other words, 83% of fans are holding on to their tickets, the same as the prior quarter. For festivals, 65% of fans are holding on to their tickets. All right, so it keeps on, goes in a lot deeper here, with some quotes from a Rapino. And I'm just going to quickly tie this one into another article about Live Nation on Consequence. And the title of this one is Live Nation has already booked twice as many shows for 2022 as it did in 2019. And so it starts off: the pent-up demand for live music will result in a historically busy 2022. In fact, Live Nation has already booked twice as many shows for the next year as it did in all of 2019. So again, Rapinoe quote saying, "Around the world, people are showing the need to get out and socialize once again, which reinforced our expectation that return to concerts will be the logical progression as vaccines are readily available to everyone who wants to get one. This is generally already the case in the U.S., where we are confidently planning our reopenings, particularly for outdoor shows, and we expect many of our other major markets will follow this summer." So there's a lot that's going on, and it's really interesting. 2022, they already have more than their 2019 schedule. Is this, are some of these considered still rollovers? How is this all being put together? Anybody have some thoughts, insider ideas, and if there's any comments on this?
I was in a Zoom webinar not too long ago with one of the executives at Madison Square Garden was speaking, and he said flat out that they're running out of dates to give people. They've got to fit their concerts and stuff in between sports and other events. So and this was already like 2 or 3 months ago when he said that. So I think it's entirely possible that those numbers are right.
Yeah.
It sounds about right. I think that a lot of artists didn't want to tour unless it was to full capacity, and the way things were slowly progressing and just elevating these capacities little by little is great for some things like sporting events. But the artists just want to play to full capacity. That's what I think.
I have to wonder, though, if this isn't a sort of a strange business decision, because bear in mind that although the artists want to get out there and they want to play and they want to tour, and that's all fantastic, people are hurting and have lost jobs and have lost income and are needing to work more than ever. So I'm just wondering if they're sort of shooting themselves in the foot, in the sense that if you've got, 7 concerts a week and the audience would easily have gone to every one of those, if by not spreading them out a bit more, people are going to have to pick and choose a bit more, and they might end up having less of the sort of sellout or demand that they'd want. I mean, does anybody think that's a possibility, or do we feel like people are just going to be basically gagging for it regardless?
And what defines a sellout in these new shows? If they are not at 100% capacity, is it the same sellout that it would have been, pre-pandemic?
True.
And let's consider too that some of these may be rollovers or holdovers. There may already be ticket holders for some of these events.
Well, a sellout. Hi, folks. Stuart here.
Hey, Stuart.
A sellout is based on the number of tickets that are made available to an event. Now, it was never unusual to do a partial seating capacity, even in the old days, where the venue was right, for production, but maybe it had 4,000 seats and you only thought you were going to sell 3,000, and you closed the top balcony. So the sellout is based on, what you scaled. However, it's 100% capacity is not based on what acts want to do or don't want to do. It's based on financially what's it going to take for this show to make, for any particular show to make money. And they are not going to make money at reduced capacity. It's just not going to happen. Sports can, because it has the TV income stream, but shows don't. You're not going to play, let's say, the Beacon Theater at 25% capacity. That'd be what, 750 people? You're not even going to pay the building costs with 750 people. So it's either 100% capacity or nothing. This is Stuart. I'm done speaking.
Thank you, Stuart. Yeah, and the interesting things that along the lines of this is about staffing and crew and everything that goes into this. But when we hear this, booked as many, almost twice as much as their shows in 2019. Is this like the carryovers, and like what I think it was Ellie was saying, is like, the trying to find space, and is this more of a correction based on reschedules and dates, and like releasing the holds that some venues they have multiple holds levels deep, and is this just more of a correction, or is this something that we could look to say, well, if they've booked this many shows, well, then in 2023 they can book as many shows, and it could even just go up and give more opportunities? Or is this just trying to pack
It's a
everything?
correction.
Okay.
That's my view. It's a correction. You know, artists have been out of work for a year and a half, along with all of us in the live entertainment business. And the fourth quarter is pretty much, if you want to make money in 2021, you've got about a 2 month window to do this. And so, you know, avails are going to be tough. There's a lot of people holding things that when challenged are going to release them, because people still have not made definitive decisions.
Doug, are your people getting, or if you're listening, are your people getting sort of inundated with requests and being sort of plunged into double the work that they would have done?
By my people, are you talking about touring crew?
Yep, touring crew.
Frankly, no, not yet. I'm in Canada, and Canada is well behind the US and the UK in terms of vaccination rates. Albeit most of my, I know a lot of people are in the UK and in the US, but it certainly isn't a flood yet. People are starting to work on projects, which I think is great. And I noticed Wolfie's up here actually, and I don't know if he wants to talk about it, but I know he was involved in one of the test events in the UK last week, so it might even be better placed than me to speak on this. But conversations are starting to happen. But for me personally, most of my dates that I had were pushed to next year, and mostly to the fall of next year. So certainly haven't seen a flood yet, but I think it will come at some point for those experienced people that are still going to be going back out.
Hey, Wolfie, actually, I didn't see you down there because my I didn't scroll all the way down. I've been getting updates from Bob Monroe and filling the team in this room about it. So if you don't mind just sort of chiming in if you're hearing us, we'd love to hear your perspective too.
That'd be fantastic. Yeah, let's just put it in context first for anybody that is just tuning in. This is in regards to last weekend's test concert in Liverpool for approximately 5,000 attendees. And what was different than the Barcelona test concert they did is that the Barcelona concert, they wore face masks and they were not socially distanced. And they only said, like, after the study was released, they said no contact direct from the event. They had 6 people test positive for COVID, but they definitely 100% ruled out 4, and then other 2 were like they can safely rule out they did not contract COVID from the concert. This one was different. This one was in Liverpool, and it was outdoors, and there was no social distancing and no masks. They were tested for COVID beforehand, but it was the gates were open and it was a full party. So Wolfie, if you could fill us in, and I think today or yesterday was when the people were supposed to start getting their tests, their COVID tests.
Hi everyone. Yeah, it was today that everyone's meant to have a PCR test who went with the event, and then I guess the results just go to the scientists then, and we wait and hear what happens next. I mean, from our side, it was an amazing success. We had some social distancing and mask wearing backstage. I think mainly to test that we can still work in those kind of circumstances if we need to. A one-way system on and off stage, a ramp on, a ramp off. Everyone had a great time. The crowd were really hungry for a show. That was really positive. It's one of the loudest crowds I've ever heard. So yeah, if anyone has any specific questions about anything, then I'm here.
Wolfie, can I ask you, with summer festivals still, being on the cards in the UK, are you finding it hard to staff your tour, or are you hearing from anyone else that there's maybe I'm guessing the answer is probably no at this point, because you probably already have your crew from before in place. But have you lost anyone to other industries, or people? Is anyone telling you that they're not coming back out on the road or anything to that effect?
Yeah, we've got a pretty solid crew. It's been near enough the same crew for the last 5 years since the band started, which has been really lucky, but really cool as well. It's a proper family vibe. We've recently lost a monitor engineer, not through COVID. We unfortunately had to let him go. I've just put out some feelers for a new monitor engineer actually, and I'm on the fence as to whether advertising it online was a great idea or a stupid idea, because the inbox has just exploded. But it's been great because there's so many people who are looking for work. Big names, small names. I think it's interesting for those smaller names who've not had a chance to get out last year. That everyone's going to be hungry to get back out. So I don't think staffing is going to be a problem as such. But we'll see when the gigs happen. Once everybody is out on the road, there's twice as many gigs going on as there was before. So
Yeah, Wolfie,
it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, thank you. There's and I do have one question specific to the event, but this was we covered the other day. It was an article from NME where it was titled "Over 28,500 shows booked for grassroots music venues this summer in the UK." So they were saying that this is they're looking at that many, and because the restrictions are planned to return to full capacity social activity on June 21st. So they were saying there's already been 2,534 socially distant shows already on sale in 266 venues from May 17th to June 21st.
Yeah, I mean that's great news, isn't it? That's everyone's hungry to get back going again. I guess those grassroots things, crewing wise, may not be too much of an issue because you might have obviously you'll have a smaller crew, but I mean, we're ready to tour. We have a tour booked for August and September. We have festival season before that. So, yeah, I'm just hoping everything goes ahead.
Right on. And one final question on the show, because there was also an after party rave that weekend too on the pier or the wharf. I think Sven Vask
so
paid.
that was the 2 days prior to the gig. So yeah, there was a rave on the Friday and the Saturday at a different venue. Part of the same pilot, same rules, testing before, etc. I think that was about 3,000 cap per night, and then the concert on the Sunday was 5,000 cap in a tent.
And finally, was it just the audiences required to get the testing as part of the test, or is that also crew, performers, and all behind the scenes?
It was everyone on site. So
Okay.
from the crew to the food vendors, everybody who was within the fence, same rules apply. Yeah.
Right on. Well, we all hope it turns out for the best, and there are no results. Does anybody have before I move on, does anybody have some final thoughts on this one? Because it is the week in review. We do things a little differently. We kind of let it ride a little bit different. So, but I do have some other articles to catch up on. But if anybody had some final thoughts on this or wanted to chime in, just go right ahead.
It might be too early to ask this question, but has anybody who's in the planning phases of tours been experiencing the scaling down of the size of the productions to, just scaling down the size of productions to keep costs down for a little while?
Definitely. I've noticed that. I'm music director for artists on Sony, and a lot of them, I'm just like their full band now, just to keep it copacetic with acoustic shows and, nighttime shows. So I've noticed that.
I've noticed that as well. Scaling down is definitely taking place.
Yeah, with us as well, especially because we're having our first gigs in July and there's still restrictions and people still don't have their vaccines, all of them, because our band is from all over Europe and a bit of out of Europe as well. So, definitely we gotta all adjust and sort of find alternatives, and yeah.
Yeah. So the concern was about gear, rentals, equipment, staffing, hands, and just to tie this back in to bring it, it goes back to Live Nation. I mean, Live Nation last year laid off 11,000 employees. So it's good that everybody's got to start staffing up, and we might, it's going to be tough to find some of the quality or the reliable hands because they might have taken different jobs throughout this. So hopefully, it all works out for the best.
Hi everyone, I'm Elle and I'm at PRS, and I've been noticing, because I've been following live, even though I'm not in the live team, I'm in the licensing team. I've been following just some thoughts back with the team, and I noticed that there's like an insurance issue as well. So it's not necessarily I don't know if this has been discussed already, but it's not necessarily whether there's budget or restrictions. I mean, it's having insurance and making sure that if anything does go wrong, they're going to back it. And I don't know. I wonder from anyone on the stage if they can share with me what their experience has been, because I've been hearing it's like a nightmare to get insured.
I can speak from personal experience just on my business insurance because I do virtual and live events as well. That it has been a challenge. We actually had to change the underwriter and whole new insurance policy. They're really strict because even though I said I'm doing virtual, they said to the broker, like, nope, we looked at his website and you're lying. And I was like, hey, can you relook at my website? Because my website has said we are only focused on virtual events. And then they said in response was, well, when things open up, you're going to do that. And of course, the answer is, well, we'll change the policy when we do that. But this is on a smaller scale. I know there are some people out there that can answer this question a lot better. I know in the UK, they're calling on the government to help out. And I think in Australia as well. But in the US, there's like the communicable diseases. There's all these different changes to the policies. Stuart, can you give us a little summary on that? I know you've been very involved in this and on top of it. And so we'd love to hear the expert view.
Well, thanks. I don't know that I'm the expert view, but I know the experts. They're just not in this room right now. So insurance is not going to be an issue if we're talking about liability insurance. It's going to be more expensive. But liability insurance, you're going to be able to buy, no problem. The second level of insurance for outdoor shows is going to be cancellation insurance, which is going to be available, but very expensive, right? Cancellation for, let's say, weather. That's going to be really expensive. But, that's kind of a market correction because there were festivals back in 2019 and 2018 that made tons of claims and, had to cancel because of bad weather. And insurance companies paid out tens of millions of dollars. So they're going to be looking for some of their money back. Now, insurance for communicable diseases is not going to be available, period. And it's not going to be available to promoters. It's not going to be available to talent. On the other hand, I'm hopeful and relatively certain that the big ticket companies, Ticketmaster and Access, are going to have disclaimers when you buy tickets. You're going to have to agree to before they let you buy tickets that you can make no claims about communicable diseases and you're going to go at your own risk. I don't know what the language is going to be. I haven't seen it. Maybe somebody in here has. So those are really the three buckets of insurance. I mean, it ain't good for the insurance industry, not just in live events, but I live in Southern California. All of our homeowners insurance policies have gone up by like 50% because of the wildfires. So, it's tough. I'm looking at offers for one of my clients now, and one of the big promoters has raised the rate for their primary insurance from 55 cents a head to 72 cents a head. So that's, that's another chunk of money that comes right out of the artist's pocket because it's a show expense. That's what I know. This is Stuart. I'm done speaking.
Thank you so much for that, Stuart. And I know, yeah,
Thank
like
you,
you
Stuart.
said,
Yeah.
yeah, it's great information. And Stuart, like you said, he does speak with the experts. He is in there doing this every day. So, definitely this is wonderful. Thank you so much. I do want to just move on with a few more. I'm going to keep it into just a couple quick articles here that are related to live music. And this one's a little more fun and interesting because it changes how clubs get classified. And this is clubs in Berlin have been declared cultural institutions. And Berghain is currently the only club marked as a cultural site in Berlin. So a vote in favor of Berlin clubs becoming cultural institutions opposed to entertainment sites was passed by an overwhelming majority the other day. And this, the Housing and Urban Development Committee. The vote will be taken today for final consent. And if the new law is passed, clubs will be offered additional support and protections, including financial aid to overcome the economic impact of the pandemic, tax breaks, permits allowing them to operate in wider areas of the city, and potential exemptions from noise limits. So this is in Mixed Bag, and this is they talk about like the Berlin's club scene brings in 1.5 billion euros to the economy. So that's an interesting note. And again, if you want to follow any of the articles that we're talking about today or that we have spoken about during the week, you can go to musicindustrycity.com, where you could also register for free, and we'll send you out the email for the weekly schedule. But there is a Clubhouse Information Center graphic there. You click on that and you click on the show notes so you can follow along. We also started a music playlist, what we do in our morning room from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday. But on Fridays, everybody shouts out an artist. We put that in the queue, and then we have Martina create an amazing playlist. So we have a playlist for each month. And with that, we're going to move on to one more about the live. This is in Polestar. Chicago launches a concert series for fully vaccinated people. And this starts off, Chicago will see the return of cultural events this summer, including a concert series solely for people who are fully vaccinated for COVID-19, official announced this week. The Protect Chicago music series begins later this month and will require ticket holders to show their COVID-19 vaccination cards and photo identification. Only those who are 2 weeks past the second vaccine dose or single dose Johnson & Johnson will be eligible to attend. And to quote, "We will never mandate that Chicagoans get a vaccine, but this is a creative way to incentivize people to step up and get it, especially younger people," Chicago Department of Public Health Commissioner Allison Orwardy said in a statement. "If we're to get out of this pandemic, we need people to get vaccinated. It's safe, it's effective, it's free, and it's the best way to protect yourself from your family and your community." And this news came as Mayor Lightfoot on Tuesday announced the return of several other festival and cultural events, and already the city officials have said Chicago Auto Show will return with safety measures, including crowd limits. The cultural events include music festivals, pop-up concerts, dance events, and theater with safety protocols in place. And Lightfoot said the city will also promote vaccinations at some events. This is something that it's people have been already talking about and worrying about, and then we hear about the vaccination cards, we hear about vaccination, the apps, and like being able to put those together, and being able like, should I have to be able to prove that I had the vaccine to go to work? So this is one of those, it's a little controversial. And I also want to bring up, and this, I don't know, is Chris here? I want to thank Chris Musgraves for passing this one along, because you're talking about when you post be careful when you post your picture on your socials of your vaccination card. And he has been brought up, bringing up about, the fact that some of these can get hacked. And this one is from nsn.com. And a bar owner in Clements accused of selling fake COVID vaccine cards. A saloon owner in the Central Valley has been arrested after state agents said he was selling fraudulent COVID-19 vaccination cards out of his business. Agents with the California Department of Alcohol Beverage Control arrested the 59-year-old Todd Anderson of Campo, owner of the Old Corner Saloon in Clements, after receiving word that the phony cards were being sold at a bar along Highway 88, according to a statement from the agency on Tuesday. They alleged that undercover agents were also able to buy the illegal cards. During the arrest, Anderson was also said to have a loaded unregistered firearm, which is a felony in California. So it goes on, just a little update on that. Just be careful about your cards, your information, and be careful about posting. I think that's a little more of a word to the wise. So does anybody have any thoughts on this as we start moving away from live?
That concert's like a pretty big Krispy Kreme donut right there.
I think that's great. And I think in terms of complaints over things like this, it's absolutely your prerogative not to get the vaccine, but there are consequences of not doing that, and not getting access to a concert should be one of them, in my opinion.
I think if they had a big touring, not to get too political, but a big touring country act, travel through some vaccine hesitant red states and have that same requirement for the show, it might be incentive enough for a whole mess of people to get vaccinated.
Well,
maybe even a free concert,
Well, for anyone who's in New York, there was an event in, I guess it was late April, where they were giving away joints in Washington Square Park for a celebration, but only to people who had been vaccinated, for no particular reason other than it was an incentive for people to vaccinate in New York City. And so there was an organization that had joints they were handing out. Show us your vaccination card, we give you a joint, smoke away. And so there are all sorts of incentives. You just kind of have to, I guess you have to speak to people with the currency they understand.
I personally know the fellow who was handing those out, the joints for jabs. I've known that guy for about 30 years. He personally rolled almost a pound of weed to hand out to people.
Wow. Okay. Well, that sounds like some dedication, right? I don't even know how much a pound would be. My gosh.
It's a decent amount.
That's amazing, and that's so like a Tompkins Square, Washington Square Park kind of story. It just works. So, with that being said, anybody have final thoughts on that, or we could table it for the round table later on before I move on. All right. So we're going to go over to some. Let's go back over to the UK for a little bit to talk about the ECSA, and this is a complete music update. ECA puts the spotlight on safe harbor, digital pie, user-centric, and royalty chains in a new white paper on, quote, fixing streaming. So this has been going on. If you've been following along in the UK, think there's been a lot of discussion, and it has actually gone to the MPs to open an inquiry about music streaming services. This goes back months, and they have been really following along with this. So the European Composer and Songwriter Alliance yesterday published a white paper on streaming and its impact on the organization's membership, calling for a number of changes to be made the way the digital market works. All right, and this is the ECSA is the latest organization to formally join the debate on the streaming business model. That debate, of course, has become more public in the last year after COVID negativity hit many music revenue streams, but premium streaming continued to grow. So they're talking about, from a songwriter perspective, it's basically the monies paid over by streaming services to the music industry, about 4 times more, is allocated to the recording rights than the separate song rights, though there are other issues too in how song royalties get paid. So in its white paper, they put the spotlight on the 4 specific issues, which are safe harbor, the song recording revenue split, how monies are allocated to individual tracks, and the complexity and lack of transparency around royalty chains. And the article really it breaks down each section. I'm not going to go into it all here, but on safe harbor, it summarizes the argument about how user upload platforms like YouTube have exploited the protections provided by the copyright safe harbor in order to get preferential deals from the music industry, despite competing with more conventional streaming or services like Spotify. And then so it really goes in. This is something to keep to pay attention to if you're over there, if you're a songwriter. And then they talk about another area that we've seen like has started to change, and SoundCloud was testing this out, and they were talking about the argument against the switch to user-centric models. And this is what they're saying is one argument against the switch to user-centric is the cost of changing the system within digital service providers, as well as the labels collecting societies. They acknowledge, however, it then says that this does not change the fact that streaming has started off on the wrong foot and must be corrected. Having the income divided on a basis of connecting the subscription fee of a listener to the actual music he or she is listening to should be the modus operandi. And so it goes on a lot more here, and there is a link to the white paper. And once again, you can find all the show notes at musicindustrycity.com, and you can click on the Clubhouse Information Center. And with that being said, let's check in with Eli with the weather.
All right. We want to say hi to all of our listeners who are tuning in from around the globe, but we do want to look in on the local weather wherever you are. Checking on your local weather forecast, the pollen count may be rising. Some allergy sufferers report that wearing a mask outside helps reduce allergy symptoms. And that's your weather report today. Back to you, Peter.
Right on. I'm lucky, knock on wood. I don't suffer from allergies, but it is that time of year where my friends, I can, I feel for them.
It's that time of year.
Yes, it is. All right. Musically, this is TikTok launches new developer tools, including SoundKit. So for all you TikTokers out there, or have artists that are using the platform to their benefit. And the article starts off, the bigger you get as a social network or app, the more you want other smaller apps to add features integrating with yours. TikTok is the latest example. It is expanding its TikTok for Developers program with some new tools, one including called SoundKit. It's a way for musicians to export their original tracks from other apps to TikTok, such as Audio Bridge, Lander, RapChat, Urdio, are the first four to take advantage of it. Another new tool, Login Kit, will enable people to sign in to other apps using their TikTok profiles. Games, dating, and even an NFT app, Neon, are included in the first batch of partners. So what they were saying is, and they talk on a separate and less positive news, Forbes has published a long article about TikTok's history and particularly its battle with the Trump administration. It won't make fun reading for the company's management team, claiming, quote, a company culture in which the executives were promoted beyond their level of competence. Employees were belittled by supervisors and expected to work until 1 a.m. to communicate with bosses in China, and basic information like org charts were nearly impossible to find. So there's the two sides of TikTok, but this is something for artists that is really something to look into and being able to tie those in. And speaking of apps and platforms, I just want to make sure that everybody knows it's Bandcamp Friday. So,
yes, it is.
So go to Bandcamp.
One time at Bandcamp?
One time at Bandcamp, they said, we're not going to take any fees. So all that you buy and all that you pay goes directly to the artists. So we love Bandcamp for this. They brought back Bandcamp Friday, and thank you for that. And make sure you go show some support. Maybe buy your mom an album on Bandcamp for Mother's Day.
Well, you
It's a
can get
win-win.
an album on Bandcamp and then play it while you make your mom a meal. There are all kinds of ways to spin that.
Yeah, I like it. All right. And I think we are just going to close up with one more. And Eli, you know what it is?
Oh my gosh, it's my favorite time. The big green dot, it hits the spot. We are moving into our Spotify spot, some of our final headlines of the day. This is the Music News Power Hour from Music Industry City Broadcast Network, and you can check out all of the articles that we are covering today by visiting musicindustrycity.com and clicking on the Clubhouse graphic. If you are in the Clubhouse room with us and we haven't invited you to the stage yet, it's not that we don't love you, we're just probably reading something. So please put your hand up if you'd like to contribute to the discussion. We have just a couple more articles or headlines to cover here, rather, before we move into our closeout and our final roundtable. So if there's anything we've covered, not just today, but throughout the week, this is the Friday Week in Review. We have a lot of articles that we've discussed this week. Feel free to put your hands up here in the Music News Power Hour room, which means something different here than it does in the club. Hands up. Or let us know in the chat if you have a question if you're tuning in with us on our streaming platforms. So, you know what time it is, the big green dot, it hits the spot. Let's go into our Spotify spot. Over to you, Peter.
Right. Yeah. Spotify. We need like that jingle. So,
Spotify,
yeah.
Spotify.
Right on. All right. So this is Musically. We've seen this been going on for a little while, like some protests against Spotify, and we covered a little bit more. But Spotify responds to the protests against their speech recognition patent. So earlier this year, controversy broke out over Spotify's patent involving using speech recognition technology to analyze a listener's, quote, emotional state, gender, age, or accent, and recommend them music accordingly. This month, more than 180 artists and human rights organizations wrote to Spotify to protest against the technology, and the streaming service has now responded. The letter was organized by Access Now and Fight for the Future workers with the U.S. Union of Musicians and Allied Workers, which is also running the Justice at Spotify campaign, calling for higher royalties, user-centric payouts, and end to payola on the service, and abandoning the DSP's appeal against new songwriter royalty rates in the U.S. The letter outlined a number of concerns about Spotify's patent, and you can you can get that link, which has all the breakdown from this article. And, quote, this technology is dangerous, a violation of privacy and other human rights, and should be abandoned. Tom Morello, Talib Kweli, and Laura Jane Grace were among the musicians signing it alongside human rights groups like Amnesty International and Color of Change. Spotify's head of global affairs and chief legal officer Horacio Gutierrez has now written back, a sign that the protest is being taken seriously by Spotify, attempting to reassure the protesters. Quote, Spotify has never implemented the technology described in the patent in any of our products, and we have no plans to do so. And he continued, I can assure you that any product Spotify develops both now and in the future will reflect our commitment to conducting business in a socially responsible manner and comply with applicable law. All right, so Spotify hopes that the privacy policies around its recent launch of voice recognition technology and its car thing, in-car smart speaker, are proof of its good intentions. However, the organizations who sent the letter aren't pulling back just yet. They go on, if the company actually wants to demonstrate its commitment to protecting human rights, Spotify must publicly declare to never use, license, sell, or monetize its harmful spyware, said Access Now's U.S. advocacy manager, Jennifer Brody. And this goes on, and saying like this is a much bigger issue than just Spotify. It's smart speakers proliferating in homes, and as the voice assistants that come with them continue to evolve, criticism of, quote, surveillance capitalism will increase too. Gutierrez promised in his letter that, quote, we will always remain open to constructive dialogue with organizations like yours, and it will be important for Spotify and all music audio services, frankly, to keep that promise to chart the right path through the ethical quandaries of tech's next decade. And that is going to be it. And I always just want to say that, you know, when I ask Siri or Alexa for something, I always say thank you, because, you know, when the AI revolution comes, I want them to say like, no, he was polite to us. He always said thank you. And that's it for the reads.
I mean, it's definitely important. I had a friend who used to fight with his iPhone, and I kept telling him, this can't be a good idea, man. This can only end in tears.
Right on. All right, so we're opening it up. It is the round table for like the final, I guess, 12 minutes here. You can go right ahead. Anybody have any thoughts? There's something that they want to bring to the table that we did not touch upon, or bring something back that we talked about, or anything that's on your mind?
Hi, Peter. This is Zandra. And, I'm here to learn. I'm an angel investor, and I invested in a company called Trubify, and I invested in a company called Cameo. So I typically invest in tech, but these two really sung to me for different reasons. Trubify, because it democratizes the dollars that can be made by artists. It's a live streaming platform, and you're able to. Oh, hello.
Yeah, Sandra. Yeah. So we're talking about the news here. So is
it
something?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is it something related to? Yeah.
Yeah. So Spotify, the streaming aspect of it. I'm glad you gave us the update on that. I wanted to see, are we running into the same problems with Apple Music and the other large streamers that have, artists on them right now? Are we going to see a proliferation of that, of the same concern that they have with Spotify?
Angela, what are your thoughts? I think you've spoke out about this, I believe.
Well,
I feel like my opinion about this has always been that ever since Spotify started to move into the more broadcasting space and less music specific space. Same thing with Apple Music. They're now integrating the podcasts. Sort of they're restructuring how that will all be rather than leaning away from the Apple Music app. It's all going to be sort of contained therein, if I'm understanding it correctly. And I think that it's that we were talking a lot in previous weeks about the competition that happens between, because obviously you only have 2 ears and the time that you have to listen in a given day, and therefore there's a lot more competition that's going on between podcasts and music and other sorts of things that eventually will be streamable on these platforms. I mean, they could go into books, it could go into who knows what in future, and as a result, it becomes less about it being. It almost becomes a piece of hardware, even though it is a software. It almost is seen to as a one-stop shop. And I think that what we're seeing is people trying to find ways to stand out as music producers, as content producers that are primarily music based, to make them stand out. Because at this stage now, Spotify doesn't care how much time you're spending on their site listening to music. They care how much time you're spending listening to anything. So they're not really all that bothered, I think, as to what it is. And it would be interesting to pay attention to anybody who's trying to differentiate themselves as just a music streaming platform, or that has things that Spotify and Apple Music don't.
On top of that, what's really interesting, and I've said this before, because I've been talking about like Spotify, like it's an entertainment platform, and it's like video, and when are we going to start seeing, the movies on there as well, and you talk about in the hardware, it's the car thing, it's a car thing, it's a hardware, but one of the interesting areas that when we talk about the Spotify and versus the Apple competition ecosystem, what we see Spotify is consolidating and bringing everything under one app. So when they they bought all the podcasting platforms, they bring in exclusives, and now it's under the Spotify app. Whereas Apple split off their podcast platform from iTunes. So you have music and then you have podcasts as two separate apps. And there's a
don't
listening
forget
behavior.
there's also Apple TV as well. So they've split the videos off in another little splinter.
Right. So to like what Angela, to what you were saying is about, like, they care about, just like YouTube. YouTube gives bigger props to videos that somebody clicks on the end card. And if you have enough viewers clicking on that end card, that means they stayed through the video and they're staying in the YouTube ecosystem. And now the other deal, and we discussed this last week, is that Facebook and Spotify is rolling out, and you're going to be able to play Spotify music and Spotify podcasts directly from Facebook. And I bring this up again in 2010, I guess it was, when they made that deal of, to follow your friend's Spotify account, you actually had to link your Facebook to your Spotify account when you were registering. I'm like, that might go down as probably one of the smartest deals ever made, because now we're starting to see that come to fruition, and that's going to be the battle. Anybody want to chime in on more on that? And thank you for the questions, Andrew. Chris, I want to go back to the article I pulled up here, and I'm going to try to find it again. And it was about the bar owner, because Chris, I'd love for you to reiterate this as much as you can, and thank you for pointing this out. It's the bar owner that was accused of selling fake COVID vaccines. And this was the one in California, and he was arrested for selling. They had returned the district attorney's office helped agents obtain a search warrant for the bar, and during the search, the agents found items that could have been used to make the cards. And we're also talking about earlier that Chicago has their concert series, but are making it that you must present your vaccine card showing that your last shot was, in fact, 2 weeks prior. Is Chris there?
His audio's been in and out, I know.
Okay.
From other rooms, but he might be.
Lindsay, almost didn't recognize you with the new picture.
I love your
Oh,
picture. Yeah, it's good to see you.
Yeah.
oh, thanks. I was getting bored playing with my phone, and all my other pictures are old. Did you guys already do the music thing in the other room before?
Yes, we did. That's in the morning. Yeah, the
Oh,
morning show. So, all right, Eli, why don't we got about 5 minutes left, so why don't I pass it back to you?
All right, all right. We're coming in on the final few moments here of the Music News Power Hour. We are here from 12 to 1 Eastern every weekday, Monday through Friday from 12 to 1 Eastern time. You can join us streaming on the World Wide Web or here on Clubhouse, where you can join the discussion by putting your hands up. We have just a few minutes left. We're sure that you want to get back to your day, but thanks for making us part of your afternoon. In these last final few minutes, do we have any final thoughts from anybody? Destiny, thanks for joining us today. Any comments on our headlines today?
Hey guys, happy Friday. No, not really, just listening, but I saw Doug unmute, so I want to push it over to him real quick.
Thank you, Destiny. Yeah, I actually wanted to make a point about one of the other stories earlier about Berlin and turning some of their venues into, is it historic sites or protected sites? And I think that's fantastic news. I've waited in line for 3 hours to get into Berghain at between 2 and 5 a.m. So if that's not a cultural site, I don't know what it is. It is. It's transcendent of music and clubs and brick and mortar. It's a very, very special place that everyone should experience if they're into dance music. But I think on a wider point, I think it is what piqued my interest in that story was when you said certain venues could have protection over noise curfew rules, and I think that is hugely important. I'm sure we all have, in the cities that we live in, have experienced venues that have been closed down or had severe restrictions placed on them because of noise curfews. And I'm thinking specifically about Edinburgh in Scotland, which has had a slew of venues close or had restrictions placed on them. And I've read so many stories through the years of somebody moves in near to a venue and then starts complaining about the noise, and I just cannot. That pains me so much, because you move into a downtown core somewhere near a venue, you have to accept that you're going to be living near a loud venue, and I think it's long overdue that small venues especially have those types of protections. So yeah, that was mainly my point on that story, and I am done speaking.
I think there was that old meme where it was like, you see like this old guy, he looks at this apartment and it's above a music venue, and he goes in, it's like, Bob sees an apartment he likes above a music venue. Bob rents the apartment. Bob gentrifies the area and raises the rent. And then Bob complains about the music being too loud because Bob moved above a venue. Don't be Bob.
Don't be like Bob.
Don't be like Bob.
Yes. Be more like Doug.
Be more like Doug. Don't be like Bob. And speaking of Doug and Bob, I want to throw it over to Andy. Andy, are you here with us? It's good to see you today. Any final thoughts for us in these final few seconds of the Music News Power Hour today?
Hey, good to see you. Actually, for once, no, I don't. I'm listening in and subbing it all up, but there's nothing really that I can add anything that other people haven't added way more than I can. Thank you.
Andy's been busy programming today.
Yeah, Andy's been very workful. And so I just want to say, Andy, thanks for joining us today. It's good to see you. And you know what? It's good to be workful. And I think everyone who has some additional work right now is really thankful. Speaking of thankful, I'm thankful to everybody who joined our conversation today here on Friday's Week in Review for Music News Power Hour through the Music Industry City Broadcast Network. You can find out more information about all of the articles that we discussed today and throughout the week by visiting musicindustrycity.com and clicking on the Clubhouse graphic. You can also register there for free to get emails with all these headlines and a little bit more too. You can find all kinds of insider industry information by registering on musicindustrycity.com. You can also join us on all of our streaming platforms across the web: Twitch, Facebook, YouTube, and of course, right here on Clubhouse, where you can join the discussion. We're here every weekday, 12 to 1 Eastern. Please do join us again on Monday. We're going to cover everything that's happened over the weekend and all the breaking headlines for Monday morning. My name is Eli Window, and on behalf of my co-host, Peter Schwing, I want to say thanks so much for joining us. We can't wait to see you again on Monday for more Music News Power Hour. See you then.
All right. And thank you, Eli, for everything. And just one more quick announcement. On Monday, you're also going to see another green dot. And the person that's right below me there, if you're looking, that's over there. And that is Angela. Angela, has been, chiming as like a stringer from UK, our UK correspondent with the American accent. She's going to be joining the team. So we're going to get some updates, what's going on in UK and Europe. And feel free to, and I thank everybody that sends me articles, hits me up in my DMs. If there's something in the news that you're like, hey, make sure to check this out. Thank you for that. And we have a lot going on at musicindustrycity.com. You can register there for free. We send out 2 emails a week. One's the show schedule that we do the Monday morning, what's on your mind, and we do the Fridays. That's the music shout outs. We do have that as playlists now. So we have monthly playlists. And if you go to the show notes, musicindustrycity.com, click on the Clubhouse Information Center. There's a graphic, boom. You can get the click on to see the show notes, and it has all the articles that we cover. It has any resources that we talk about for artists and for business in there, and we have all the music that's shouted out and the playlist. So thank you, everybody. It's been